Deep within a twisted, gnarled forest, a dark substance bubbles ominously in a murky pool, leading to a massive, hollowed-out tree that serves as a strange and secluded home, where mysterious, glowing pods hang from its branches like strange, organic lanterns. From inside, a young elf girl with wide, curious eyes peers out at the world. Her meager meal a simple broth with nothing but a fish skeleton and old bones left. And the shelves in her pantry are completely bare, confirming her food has run out, leaving her to stare down at a small lizard, perhaps her only potential meal. But with a sigh of resignation, she holds the creature up, clearly unenthused, deciding against it and instead grabbing a basket to venture outside for provisions. Cautiously, the small girl in the black hood peeks out from her doorway, stepping into the bizarre, alien landscape that surrounds her isolated home. When a voice suddenly calls out, asking where she thinks she is headed, and from the shadows emerges a massive, intimidating black wolf named Nova. But instead of fear, she turns with a bright smile, calling out the name Belle. This great wolf seems to understand as she explains her plan to find food in the forest of meat. This beast sternly warns her that this land is a dangerous zone, forbidding her from going alone. Ignoring his command, the elf girl insists she must go anyway, walking away from him. A sudden jolt sends her flying into the air with a startled cry, as the massive wolf creature scoops her onto its back, howling defiantly at the sky, reminding her that he explicitly told her not to venture out by herself. Her goal becomes clear as she reaches for a strange, bulbous fruit hanging from a vine, guiding him toward the prize from her high vantage point on the beast's back. Now holding a basket full of the harvest, she notes it will barely last them 2 days, wishing aloud that she could use her magic to freeze them for preservation. Her companion simply stares back, a silent, unreadable expression on its face. Then suddenly it lunges forward, snatching a mouthful of the precious food from the vine, and the girl happily remarks on what a good eater one of the heads, Kel, is. Turning to the main head, Belle, she asks if it wants any, but it simply refuses. She reasons that with 3 heads but only 1 stomach, whoever is hungry should eat it, which makes Kel ecstatic, realizing it can now eat as much as it wants. This hooded girl greets the sleeping wolf Ross, who grumbles that she is the one who fell asleep. She wants to talk with him, but Ross insists that the night is too dangerous for children. With a frustrated cry, she insists that at 8 years old she is an adult, not a child. Ross scoffs at her claim, his form shifting as he barks back a sharp retort. Their argument is interrupted as a massive winged creature descends into the clearing before them. This creature, Stolas, reveals it was worried sick, thinking something terrible had happened to her. Her expression instantly brightens as she joyfully calls out the winged creature's name, Stolas. Now facing the 3-headed beast, the girl innocently asks if Stolas came for meat too. But Stolas clarifies it was looking for her specifically, having brought something just for her. With a great flap of its wings, the creature drops a massive sack from above. Spilling onto the ground are souvenirs from the human village, a trove of useful items. Amidst the pile of goods, her eyes land on something specific, a look of confusion dawning. Her hands find a magnificent staff, her face lighting up as she recognizes the legendary item. She can hardly believe it is for her, a precious item she has longed for, and Stolas confirms it is all hers. Wasting no time, she grips the staff tightly and unleashes its power with a determined cry. In the silent, gnarled forest, the young elf and her companion face a massive beast. She complains that her staff is broken, dismissing the idea of easily finding magia. While the scarred beast watches them silently, its gaze intense and unreadable. Holding a small orb, she wonders aloud if she can learn to wield its power with practice. This power of magia, she learns, is a great blessing from the earth itself. But the beast looms over her, warning that this power is only for the chosen, declaring her far too inexperienced to handle such a dangerous force without permission. Dejected, she walks away through the twisted roots as a massive tail slithers by. Someone urges her not to lose heart, sensing her deep disappointment. Her owl companion, now with a crystalline crest, explains it was only speaking out of concern. This scarred beast announces that night is falling and it is time for them to return. With a sigh, the small companion seems to accept the day's difficult lesson. As they travel back, the moon hangs high in the sky above the dark forest. Back in her room, the young elf is now safely tucked into her bed, fast asleep and still clutching the very staff that started her difficult day. Sharp claws dig into the forest floor as the great beast begins its patrol, prowling through the strange woods where the young elf now sleeps soundly. Its dark form recedes into the eerie mists between the gnarled trees. When from a high branch, Stolas observes the beast's rigid daily patrol, noting its discipline. This great wolf simply states this is its duty as the guardian of the forest, but the winged creature seems to have another topic on its mind entirely. With a snarl, the beast demands to know why Stolas gave the girl that staff. This winged creature explains it was simply because Nova wanted it, a gift for someone who has so little. Calling the act reckless, the wolf warns against bringing human items into their world. But Stolas reveals the staff is a mere counterfeit, unable to produce magia, urging the beast to be kinder. This owl reminds the wolf that it cares for the girl more than anything. Yet the wolf scoffs at the condescending tone, refusing to take orders or advice. A shadow falls over the winged creature's face, its expression hardening instantly. This tense standoff continues as the wolf demands to know what Stolas is hiding. This question triggers a memory of the day a human infant was brought to the forest, raised without explanation. A voice reminds her she chose this land specifically to avoid the humans she once hated. While Stolas worries about suspicious forest dwellers and an incident from 8 years ago, this great wolf simply turns and walks away into the dense woods without another word, leaving Stolas to grumble that the beast has no intention of talking at all. This owl calls out that she has always been a troublesome one for keeping secrets. This next day, the three-headed wolf is on patrol when it senses something amiss, spotting the young elf hiding behind a fallen log, much to her surprise. He reminds her of his constant warnings not to venture deep into the woods alone, but she just pouts, claiming she was only out for a simple walk. His piercing gaze from the shadows shows he does not believe her for a second. With a serious look, she tells Nova to listen closely to what she has to say, but he explains that while her area is safe, the greater forest is dangerously untamed. One stroke of bad luck could be fatal, warning that she lacks a true sense of danger. She counters that if she only had access to her magia, none of this would be an issue, but a booming voice from the darkness cuts her off, refusing to repeat the same warning. This young elf questions the strict rule forbidding her from ever using magia, pulling her hood down in frustration as she demands to know the reason why. Her wolf companion Belle sternly explains it is because she is still just a child. Dejected, she walks away, thinking to herself that Belle is always so overprotective. Her frustration boils over as she screams about all the things she is forbidden to do, and when Belle asks why she cannot listen, she angrily declares that she hates him. With that, she storms off into the woods, refusing to say where she is going. This great wolf's heads droop in response, a wave of sadness washing over the creature, watching silently as her small form disappears deeper into the dangerous forest alone. Her small boots stomp defiantly through the undergrowth, carrying her further from her home. And as she ventures into a clearing, a small creature watches her from the shadows. She glances back over her shoulder, still fuming over Belle's perceived cruelty, letting out all her anger in a childish tantrum in the middle of the woods. But the outburst quickly fades, leaving her feeling utterly small and alone. Suddenly, a massive force slams into the ground right beside her, catching her completely off guard. A sudden crash from behind makes the young elf girl whip around in surprise. She discovers a strange white object that has impacted the ground, billowing smoke. Looking up, she realizes something bright had just fallen from the dark night sky. This mysterious object appears to have landed right in the middle of the forest path. Leaning closer with wide eyes, she wonders what this thing could possibly be. It seems to be a massive, beautifully clear crystal unlike any stone she has ever seen. Her own reflection stares back at her from its pristine, glittering surface. Overcome with pure curiosity, she decides to get an even closer look. Her hand reaches out, tentatively touching the tip of the strange, crystalline object. Instantly, a blinding flash of light erupts from the crystal, startling her. She shields her eyes, overwhelmed by the sudden and intense brightness. When the light finally fades, the once clear crystal has turned completely black. Puzzled by this transformation, she wonders if Stolas might know what it is. Just then, a colossal shadow falls over her as a massive beast appears. Her fear turns to pure awe as she realizes she is seeing a dragon for the very first time. Its massive, unblinking eye stares down at her, a silent and imposing presence. Stunned, Nova introduces herself and asks the great beast where it came from. She then notices a strange substance sizzling on the ground right beside her. A past warning echoes in her mind about beasts that cannot be reasoned with. Without warning, the dragon lunges forward, sending her flying backward with immense force. She is thrown through the air, losing her grip on the counterfeit staff she cherished, crashing hard onto the forest floor with a painful and disorienting thud. Terrified, she clutches the black crystal, her only shield against the coming attack. This beast's massive claw slams down, but a piece of it shatters against something unseen. Her eyes widen in disbelief, shocked that she somehow survived the powerful blow. Enraged and in pain, the dragon lets out a deafening roar right in her face, and she squeezes her eyes shut, bracing for the inevitable end. Suddenly, a dark liquid splatters violently across the entire scene before her. Her only instinct is to hold up the strange black crystal as a desperate shield, only to open her eyes a moment later, completely unharmed and utterly confused. Her eyes widen in pure shock at the horrific sight before her. This dragon's head slumps forward, oozing a dark, viscous liquid onto the ground, its lifeblood pooling just inches from where she sits, completely stunned. She can only wonder if the magnificent creature is already dead. Clutching the now blackened crystal and questioning what just happened, suddenly the crystal begins to transform, sprouting sharp, menacing spikes. Overwhelmed by the strange events, she turns to flee the clearing, but a monstrous, shadowy beast with terrifying claws looms over her path. Pure terror washes over her face at the sight of the new threat. A ferocious, wolf-like guardian crashes onto the scene with immense force, and through the whirlwind of motion, she recognizes her protector, Belle. He towers over her, his voice booming with anger, reminding her of his warnings. Belle's sharp gaze then darts upward, sensing another presence in the dark woods. Nova can only stand there trembling, completely overwhelmed by the danger she is in, while Belle lets out a heavy sigh, his anger mixing with deep concern for her safety. Belle finally finds Nova, his expression stern as he tells her they have much to discuss. But his anger melts into overwhelming relief, simply glad that she is unharmed. She is stunned by his gentle tone, realizing just how much he was worried about her. Belle then apologizes himself, his own voice filled with regret for their earlier argument. Overcome with emotion, she buries her face in his fur, tearfully apologizing for her harsh words. Her apology turns into a desperate sob as the weight of her guilt finally breaks through. This great wolf sighs, accepting her apology and the difficult situation they are in. Deciding to postpone the lecture, choosing instead to comfort the distraught child, their reconciliation is interrupted as his gaze falls upon the destruction in the clearing. Nova quickly explains that a strange object fell from the sky, holding up the now black crystal. Belle inspects the crystal, recognizing it as some kind of ore but sensing something more important is at play. His attention shifts back to her, his voice turning serious as he says her name. He finally asks the question that has been bothering him, why she is so desperate for Magia. Her answer is simple and heartbreaking. She explains it is because she has nothing else, feeling powerless, unable to fly like Stolas or command the immense strength of Belle. This great wolf tells her that in her current state she is utterly powerless. Clutching the dark crystal, she pleads that she just wants to be useful with Magia. Remembering the dangerous ideas Stolas put into her head about its limitless power, that with Magia anything is possible, a lie that now fuels Belle's quiet fury, he warns her that even if she could wield such a force, the price could be her very life. But with fierce determination, she declares that she is willing to pay that price. Her reckless words leave the great wolf completely stunned for a moment, because if it means she can finally be useful, any sacrifice is worth making. An overwhelming feeling of desperation washes over her as she clutches her chest, her face flushing as the true weight of her own declaration finally sinks in. This beast seems to have expected this, a sad resignation in its gaze, firmly stating that he absolutely cannot let her handle Magia in her current state. He scolds her for this talk of self-sacrifice, refusing to protect someone so reckless, leaving Nova utterly speechless and defeated by his harsh but protective words. She asks what she is supposed to do, and one of the heads gently nudges her in comfort. Belle remains silent for a long moment, considering her desperate plea. Without another word, he gently lifts the small elf by the back of her cloak, tossing her onto his back to carry her from the dangerous clearing, and firmly announcing that it is finally time for them to go home. She quietly buries her face in his thick fur, the difficult conversation over for now. As they travel, Nova meekly asks her guardian for just one small favor, while Stolas observes from afar, noting what a disaster the dragon attack had been. Back at their camp, Stolas questions Belle's intentions for the child and the dragon meat, but Nova is too busy struggling to cook a piece of it over a tiny fire. This great owl watches her pathetic attempt with a look of pure confusion, turning his attention back to the silent, watchful wolf guardian beside him. She complains that her small flame is useless for cooking such a large meal. Sensing Stolas' intent, Belle warns the owl not to get any strange ideas, but the feathered beast claims he was already planning to act on his own accord. Belle then turns to Nova, ordering her to step back as he prepares to act. Belle's massive paw slams down, radiating an immense and dark power. Nova looks up in shock as a strange fiery aura emanates from her hand. And before her, Belle transforms into a terrifying beast wreathed in shadow flame. She stares up at his new, colossal form, completely dwarfed by his presence, her voice trembling as she finally comprehends the scale of his true power. Even Stolas is stunned by the display, recognizing the raw energy as Magia. While one of Belle's heads looks on with grim determination, his mind now made up. He declares that he will be the one to teach her, leaving Nova speechless. Telling her to listen, explaining her own reckless thoughts are the real danger. As Stolas lands on her arm, demanding a promise to never be so reckless again, Belle then explains his duty as the guardian of the forest and all its people, reminding Nova that she is one of them and must not forget her own worth. Touched by his words, she quietly agrees, a sense of belonging finally reaching her. With new resolve, she makes a solemn promise to her powerful guardians. And Stolas, perched on Belle's head, simply remarks on how stubborn she can be. This scent of the fallen dragon draws other forest creatures from the shadows, and Nova generously offers to share the feast with all the curious newcomers. She happily notes that Belle's power is what brought them all together in peace, but he quietly thinks to himself that one day this will all change. Nova dreams aloud of using her own Magia to bring smiles to the entire world. A sentiment that seems to give her stoic guardian a moment of pause, as he considers her dream to be as impossible as trying to grasp the clouds. Still, if her wish could come true, he admits he would love to see it happen. With that, Belle decides to begin her training, explaining the basics of Magia and Sabma, clarifying that while Magia exists everywhere, it is far more potent within this forest. He instructs her to focus the ambient energy into a single point in her hand. So Nova clenches her fists, concentrating with all her might to follow his command. Suddenly, a small wisp of dark energy crackles to life between her very fingers. She feels a strange tingling, and Belle suspects she has an affinity for lightning Magia, explaining that Magia is an innate talent that must be continuously released to take form. Belle explains that a practical demonstration is the only way, telling her to try. And with newfound determination, she prepares to unleash her power, reaching forward. She concentrates with all her might, focusing her will into her outstretched hands, aiming her power at a nearby tree ready to prove her worth. But Belle watches with a sharp, knowing gaze, anticipating the outcome. Suddenly, the power backfires, sending a jolt of pain through her body. This great wolf immediately roars for her to stop, seeing the dangerous backlash unfold. His expression turns to one of regret as he tells her it is a shame, Nova, because she is simply incapable of using Magia, a devastating truth for her. Her hands are left scarred and trembling, a painful reminder of her failure. Gently, he tells her to come over so he can change the bandages on her hands, and later, Stolas sits beside her as she rests, her arm now properly bandaged. Stolas asks about her injury and she quietly thanks him, saying she is all right. But despite her words, a deep sadness hangs over her, the failure weighing heavily. This small creature then asks why she is out so late, his tone laced with concern. Belle explains to Stolas that he has treated Nova's injuries and put her to rest. But the great wolf wonders if Stolas has ever considered Nova's true feelings. Stolas retorts that Belle must know how desperately she craves the magia she cannot wield, declaring that he came to discuss the facts he has uncovered about the situation. He brings up the strange stone Nova found, prompting Belle to ask what he has learned, and Stolas admits Nova's story about the meteorite just does not add up. This stone is smooth and black but strangely light, bearing scorch marks from atmospheric entry, concluding that the object is special and there is proof that an event occurred. This proof is the dragon, which he points out was already headless when Belle pinned it down. He explains that dragons have immense life force and can still move after decapitation, which means the only logical conclusion is that Nova somehow defeated the beast herself, theorizing that some power from the stone must have activated when the dragon attacked her. While the dragon was a weak and unintelligent specimen, for its head to vanish is an anomaly, a strange fact that gives the silent wolf guardian pause as he listens intently. Finally prompting Belle to ask the question that now hangs over them: who is this child? In the darkness, Nova's eyes reflect the turmoil of the day's events. Belle reveals he cannot explain his actions, bound by some kind of secret contract. This piques Stolas' curiosity, questioning who Belle would make such a deal with. These two guardians trade barbs, each accusing the other of being far too secretive. Belle dismisses the owl, telling him to leave as he has duties to attend to. Meanwhile, a new presence emerges from the lake, questioning the dragon's appearance in the forest. Stolas simply suggests the beast was just hungry for a different kind of meal, but Belle retorts that it had no reason to leave its own territory for food. This lake guardian appears, stating that Belle must speak with it about this territorial breach. It seems amused by Belle's unwavering dedication to his duty as forest protector. Stolas then announces he will be unable to accompany Nova the following day. Belle immediately tasks the owl with watching over her, though Stolas warns him not to follow. This great wolf insists that after everything she has been through, Nova should not be alone. Stolas is taken aback by this rare display of open concern from Belle, finally understanding the depth of his worry before being told to go home. Stolas reminds himself not to use magia in front of the child, knowing that for now she cannot put any strain on her injured hands. His thoughts are interrupted by Nova hauling a massive root she calls Rice Collector number 5, and she even offers him a giant mushroom, a gift from her forest friends. This owl tells her to leave it behind if it is too heavy, but she just thinks it looks cool, offering to wrap it in cloth since it will not fit in his usual basket. Annoyed, Stolas snaps that she does not have to come with him at all, which makes Nova upset, telling him not to say such sad things. Feeling guilty, Stolas lands on her head, insisting he is strong enough to carry things for her. She then asks where they are headed, recalling Belle's warning not to wander too far, and Stolas leads her into a vast, strange land filled with giant mushrooms. He explains this is the very place she got lost as a child, though she has no memory of it. Her attention is caught by a strange black mushroom she asks if they can eat. But Stolas explains this area is saturated with sabma, causing new fungi to sprout constantly. Because of this, he warns her not to touch anything, as many of the mushrooms are dangerously poisonous. Nova casually holds up a strange mushroom she's been eating, looking dazed, while Stolas watches her with concern as she continues to chew on the unknown fungus. Suddenly, her world turns upside down in a dizzying flash of disorientation. This owl can only stare in wide-eyed shock at the sudden event, and with a puff of smoke, the strange effect seems to vanish entirely. She reappears completely normal, noting that she has returned to her senses. Immediately, Stolas scolds her for eating something so reckless, regardless of the taste, warning her that while she was lucky this time, it could have been dangerously poisonous. Their conversation is interrupted by a new voice calling out Stolas' name, revealing a massive, slug-like creature who seems surprised to see them here. This strange being greets them both, remarking that their timing is perfect. Explaining he was searching for edible fungi specifically for Nova to eat, his friendly demeanor vanishes as he recognizes the mushroom in her hand as a deadly poison. Stolas confirms she ate some, asking if it is the one that causes gigantification, but the slug creature is left utterly baffled by the mention of such an effect. This slug creature demands to know how she can stand there so calmly after eating a deadly poison. Stolas realizes that for her to be so composed, she must already be under the poison's influence. He explains that creatures who ate that mushroom in the past developed spots before perishing. This leads him to believe Nova must possess an incredibly powerful natural immunity to toxins. Still, Stolas questions why that would cause her to suddenly grow to a massive size. This slug creature admits he has no idea, theorizing it might be a detoxification reaction. Realizing Nova is more of an enigma than ever, Stolas asks the slug to teach her which fungi are safe to eat, and Nova cheers, ready for an all-you-can-carry feast of the surrounding edible mushrooms. Later that night, Stolas carries a massive sack of fungi as Nova asks if it is too heavy for him. She wonders how they will eat such a large amount, suggesting they could cook or boil them. But Stolas realizes cooking them would be a huge hassle, especially since they'd need Belle to start a fire. Noticing his sudden pause, Nova asks what is wrong, though he quickly dismisses her concern. He decides it is best not to remind her of Magia, thinking a change of subject is in order, and soon they arrive at a riverbank, the journey nearly at its end, where Stolas suggests they rest for a moment in the cool air by the water. Something feels wet, though Nova notes that it is not even raining. Stolas tells her to focus on healing her hand, dismissing her talk of fishing. With her stomach rumbling, he suggests they eat some of the mushrooms they gathered. She starts a fire with the flint Stolas gave her, a tool she always carries. Nova happily seasons her food with a special salt from him, calling it delicious. Looking out at the world, Stolas remarks on the impressive technology of humans. This reminds Nova of the staff he gave her, which she guiltily admits to breaking. He asks if it was destroyed during the dragon attack, which she quietly confirms. But Stolas quickly reassures her that her safety is all that truly matters. His kind words leave her speechless, a blush creeping onto her cheeks. She wonders aloud if things would be different if she could have used Magia with the staff. Stolas sees the deep regret still weighing on her mind, leaving Nova to stare into the fire, lost in her own sad thoughts. He then calls out her name, his tone suddenly serious, asking her directly if she truly wants to be able to use Magia. Nova is left completely stunned by Stolas' unexpected proposal. He explains it is a simulation to avoid straining her, a small risk even if Belle gets angry, and a wave of hopeful excitement washes over her at the chance to feel Magia. Eagerly, she agrees to the plan, declaring that she absolutely wants to try it. First, they stop to cook the mushrooms, with Stolas reminding her to eat slowly. After setting up a small campfire, he confirms that everything is perfectly prepared. Nova holds him close, musing that this will let her feel Magia and relieve stress. But Stolas furiously snaps back, telling her he is not some kind of tool for her to use. His sudden outburst catches her off guard, and she quietly asks what is wrong. This owl quickly calms down, simply saying it is no trouble at all. With their resolve renewed, she holds him aloft as they prepare to unleash his power. Suddenly, a colossal wall of jagged ice erupts from the earth with incredible force. Leaving Nova completely speechless, her face pale with shock at the display. Even Stolas is horrified by the sheer magnitude of the power they just released. This immense ice formation now towers over the forest, a testament to their combined effort. Nova stares in awe at Stolas' true power, realizing he'd been holding back his incredible Magia. Suddenly, an enraged Belle appears from the trees, demanding to know what Stolas is doing. This great wolf snatches Stolas, ordering him back to the forest for an immediate explanation. Trying to intervene, Nova insists there is a reason for this, and it is not what he thinks. Stolas frantically pleads with the wolf guardian, begging him to just listen to his side. He then reveals a shocking truth, that Nova was the one responsible for the power surge. Belle refuses to believe it, accusing him of blaming the child for his own mistake. But Stolas, now in a larger form, insists he could not produce that much Magia alone. While he admits to using his power, the resulting scale was entirely unexpected. Belle counters, suggesting Nova might have just been touching him when it activated. This leads Stolas to theorize she can amplify or share the power of others. This guardian wolf considers this, noting the massive amount of Sabma also involved. Confused, Nova looks down at her still bandaged hands, trying to understand it all. She quietly gets the attention of her two powerful protectors, asking them if she can still be of any use to them. Belle acknowledges the immense danger of the power they have just witnessed. Stolas admits he was trying to hide his concern over her Magia all along. This great wolf then looks at Nova, seeing only the kind child she is. He tells her that this incredible power will one day save many people. Stolas teases Belle for his rare honesty, breaking the tension for a moment. Touched by their words, Nova clutches the Belle Stolas gave her with a blush. This owl then takes to the air, preparing to address the situation further. But Nova turns to Belle, now curious to see what his Magia can do. This wolf guardian immediately shuts her down, stating that it is impossible. Stolas realizes Belle was holding back his own power to prevent Nova from amplifying it. Belle explains that if he used his fire Magia, it could create a disaster of equal scale, asking Nova if she would truly want to burn down the entire forest. She agrees to wait until the right time comes to use her dangerous gift. Stolas then reminds Belle of his meeting with the lake guardian, which is now postponed. Enraged, Belle snaps at the owl for causing this mess and delaying his duties. Belle warns that people will freeze to death, ordering Stolas to melt the ice with his fire Magia. Meanwhile, a mysterious woman observes the ice from afar, pleased that it has finally appeared. With a confident smirk, she wonders if her present has been well received. A knowing look crosses her face as she addresses someone as princess. This following morning, Belle surveys the forest, noting an unusually thick and ominous fog. A flustered Stolas flies into view, immediately earning an annoyed sigh from the wolf guardian. This guardian wolf immediately asks about Nova, and Stolas confirms she is surprisingly energetic. Nearby, two small girls pester the other creatures to show them Magia but are quickly shut down. Stolas realizes that since the incident, Nova's interest in Magia has grown much stronger. This great wolf furiously confronts Stolas, accusing him of encouraging Nova and then blaming her for it. With a sigh of pure frustration, the guardian wolf turns away from the owl. His attention then shifts, calling Nova over for a serious discussion. Nova approaches them both with a cheerful greeting, asking why they look so serious. Belle then lays down a new law: no one is to encourage Nova's use of Magia except in emergencies. Though visibly disappointed, Nova agrees to his command, promising not to use it if he says so. Belle accepts the explanation, noting that for once, Stolas is being completely honest. This great wolf then announces he is leaving, telling Nova to behave until he returns. She watches him, a silent question hanging in the air as he prepares to depart, and with a final warning he forbids Stolas from snooping around his home for magic secrets. Startled by the accusation, Nova quietly promises she would never do such a thing, but her flustered denial only seems to confirm Belle's thoughts that she is surprisingly easy to read. Elsewhere, Stolas realizes her true motive, vowing to lecture Nova before she goes anywhere. While back in the forest, she tries to calm the furious wolf, pleading with Belle not to get so angry. Crying, she explains that if he scolds her now, she might give up on magic entirely. Stolas then interjects, explaining that children are driven by a curiosity they do not fully understand, leaving the great wolf to loom over a terrified Nova, processing the situation's gravity. But she completely misreads the mood, excitedly asking if this means she can go to the lake with him. Her eyes sparkle with the thought of an adventure, leaving both her guardians utterly baffled. Belle concedes that the lake is safer than the forest, though Stolas insists this is not a trip for fun. Yet Belle understands she cannot be confined to the forest forever, that Nova has a right to know the world. Belle declares that if there is any anxiety, he will accompany them as well. Overjoyed by his decision, Nova cheers enthusiastically at the news. Now in a two-headed form, Belle sternly warns her not to go near the lake again. With a heavy sigh, a massive paw presses against the ground. Stolas questions if waking him is truly necessary, but Belle insists it is the only way. This smaller wolf form turns back with a sharp growl, leaving Nova confused. Suddenly, the entire forest floor begins to violently shake and rumble. And a colossal clawed hand erupts from the earth with immense force. Throwing Nova off her feet, the sudden tremor sends her stumbling backward in shock. A gigantic wooden golem called Dendron, a soldier of the forest, rises before them. Safely coiled in the lake guardian's tail, she can only stare at its incredible size. Its single, glowing eye fixes its gaze upon the small group below. This ancient being is revealed to be the very will of the forest, a living embodiment of its Sabma. Belle explains that as long as the forest itself survives, this guardian is essentially immortal. Stolas remarks that activating it consumes immense energy, making this a truly rare event. Nova stares up in awe at the colossal golem, calling it incredibly cool. This golem Dendron is flattered by her compliment, calling her a cute little girl, and as a gift, a flower magically sprouts from its wooden hand for her. But she immediately eats it, leaving the nature-loving golem completely stunned. Belle furiously threatens to destroy the golem, while Stolas questions his destructive intent. Dendron boasts that it can handle any threat, admitting it is a fool but has immense power. With the powerful golem now guarding the forest, the group prepares to depart for the lake. As Belle tries to lift her onto his back, Nova cries out in protest. She insists that she wants to walk on her own 2 feet for this journey. And Stolas explains her desire to experience her first time leaving the forest properly. Belle reluctantly agrees, allowing her to walk as long as she does not slow them down. Overjoyed, Nova happily leads the way, pointing out every wonder she sees, and she soon discovers a strange, glowing fruit, taking a huge bite out of it. In her excitement, she slips on the slick riverbank and tumbles into the water, leaving a soaked and shivering Nova to stand there as Belle holds up her drenched clothes. This night passes peacefully, with Nova resting under the protection of her 2 guardians. Their journey to the lake finally begins the next morning across the cold ground, when Nova suddenly spots something ahead with a gasp of surprise. She rushes toward the vast lake, amazed by the sheer amount of water. Belle, however, immediately senses that something is terribly wrong with the area. Stolas observes the polluted water, realizing it is the source of the forest sickness. Leading Belle to theorize the contamination drove away local wildlife and attracted the dragon. To get a better view, Stolas takes to the sky for reconnaissance, promising a quick return. This great wolf then turns to Nova, sternly warning her not to stray too far, but her eyes suddenly widen in shock at a sight in the distance. For a mysterious woman stands alone at the edge of the murky water. Confused, Nova tries to point out the stranger to her guardian. But before she can react, the woman is upon her, grabbing her hand with a chilling grip. In an instant, Belle's furious, massive form appears right behind them both. Yet the stranger seems completely unfazed, casting a calm glance at the enraged guardian. Nova is suddenly bound and dragged away, crying out in complete surprise. A shadowy beast pulls her across the plains, its dark intentions unknown. But Belle unleashes a furious counterattack, his power taking the form of a white wolf. He slams into the dark creature with a massive blast of pure energy. Nova watches in shock, questioning why Belle would use such incredible force. This explosion reveals the beast was not an animal at all, but something else entirely. From the smoke emerges a mysterious woman, her hair and clothes like flickering flames. Belle snarls with rage, screaming for Nova to get away from the new arrival immediately. This woman sighs in annoyance, holding 2 small, terrified girls who look just like Nova. She calmly asks for a gentler introduction, unfazed by the Guardian's hostility. Her gaze then falls upon Nova, sensing a strange aura and asking if she is a witch. A knowing smirk crosses her face, clearly enjoying the confusion she has caused. Belle demands she return the child, but the woman finds his protective request amusing. She then grabs Nova, whispering that the girl was never his to begin with. This shocking claim leaves the great wolf seething, demanding to know what she means. This mysterious woman tosses a pair of dice, refusing to play along with their games. Her name is Zarya, and she smirks with absolute confidence as she unleashes her power. Suddenly, the ground begins to tremble violently, alerting a three-headed guardian beast. Its heads let out a furious bark, sensing the imminent and unwelcome threat. From the earth erupts a grotesque horde of slimy, shadowy creatures. This three-headed beast stands its ground as the monstrous tide surges toward it. Watching from the side, a horrified Nova can only ask what is happening. Belle's beast form identifies the attack as a troublesome display of water magia. His eyes then widen in shock as he realizes the true source of the assault. Zarya stands atop a colossal feathered serpent, the legendary guardian of the lake. This great beast compliments the princess on her impressive display of power. Looking back, Zarya seems surprised that the guardian appears so young despite its age. Belle tells the lake guardian to be grateful, calling Zarya a well-made demon. High above the icy battlefield, the guardian notes she is quite a formidable opponent. This furious wolf demands to know Zarya's true objective and why she is targeting Nova. Zarya scoffs at the guardian's threats, unimpressed by his furious display of power. She condescendingly asks if he needs to be disciplined for his insolent behavior. With a crazed look in her eye, she simply says re-roll, activating a strange ability. And Belle's massive two-headed form is suddenly thrown back by an unseen, chaotic force. A terrified Nova can only scream out her guardian's names in sheer panic, while the great wolf feels his own power surge uncontrollably, questioning what she did. Zarya calmly identifies both the multi-headed wolf and the owl as powerful, high-level demons. A revelation that seems to confirm her suspicions about their true nature. Watching from the sidelines, Nova realizes Zarya intends to finish this fight immediately. This mysterious woman then makes a surprising offer, asking if Belle would serve her. He furiously rejects the idea, snarling that he would rather die than become her pawn. With a sigh of disappointment, she simply says farewell, her patience clearly at an end. Belle realizes the situation is dire, desperately searching for a way out of this trap. But a small voice suddenly cuts through the chaos, pleading for it all to stop. And Nova unleashes a powerful, desperate scream that reverberates across the entire lake. Zarya unleashes a devastating attack, the ground shattering as it races toward the terrified Nova. Belle can only scream out the child's name, his voice filled with pure, unadulterated rage. But the mysterious woman simply glances back, her expression completely unfazed by the chaos. With cold, calculating eyes, she watches the destruction she has single-handedly caused unfold. Her immense power slams into the earth, erupting in a massive explosion of raw energy. Nova remains bound by shadows, panting heavily but somehow still standing after the blast. From within the settling dust, Zarya emerges without a single scratch on her. In her hand, she casually inspects a pair of dice held between long, dark fingernails. Her gaze remains fixed on them, treating this entire battle like a simple game of chance. This resulting devastation carves a huge trench through the landscape, exceeding her own expectations. An invisible force then yanks Nova forward, dragging her helplessly across the broken ground. She quickly loses her footing, crashing hard onto the cold and unforgiving earth. Zarya looms over her, waving a hand dismissively at the fallen, helpless child. Grabbing Nova's face with a cruel grip, she forces the terrified girl to look up. A wicked smirk spreads across her face as she remarks on their striking resemblance. Zarya calls out a mysterious name, Sophie, unleashing a new phase of her attack. This ground shatters under the sheer force of her summoned power. In response, Belle's two-headed form lunges forward with blinding speed. His mind racing with the realization that Zarya's abilities are far worse than he imagined. He lands hard, his powerful claws digging into the ravaged earth. But one of Zarya's minions looks around in confusion, wondering where he has vanished to. A voice calls out to the watchdog, drawing his attention away from the fight, for Zarya is suddenly upon him, taunting him about how much Nova means to him. With a furious roar, he thrashes wildly, trying to dislodge the flame-haired woman from his back. Yet he hesitates, his gaze fixed on something happening far across the lake. Zarya suggests his overprotective nature is a weakness, proposing to separate him from the child. As she calls Nova's name, a slimy hand erupts from the polluted water below. This great wolf can only watch in pure rage, completely powerless to intervene. As strange roots suddenly bind him, revealing Zarya controls more than just water. With a final taunting whisper, she prepares to make her exit, leaving only falling leaves behind. Zarya calmly announces that it is time for them to part ways. With a confident smile, she says she hopes they will meet again someday. Belle roars for her to wait, but she simply mocks him as a guard dog. Suddenly, something is thrown into the murky lake with a huge splash. This great wolf can only watch, powerless to stop what just happened. It was Nova, now lying face down in the polluted water. She slowly lifts her head from the surface, a skeletal fish on her hair. Completely disoriented, she collapses back onto the shore, exhausted. A pained groan escapes her as the contaminated water takes its toll. Her eyes then snap open in sudden shock, realizing her situation. Frantically, she calls out for Belle and Stolas, but they are nowhere in sight. Alone in a dark, unfamiliar cave, she wonders where she could be. Her stomach rumbles loudly, a sharp reminder that she is also hungry. Just then a strange creature appears before her, offering a piece of fruit. Before her sits a large, strange-looking bread, seemingly left just for her. A sudden splash from the water startles Nova, her eyes wide with alarm. She spins around, calling out into the darkness of the cave, asking who is there. From the murky depths, a mysterious girl with flowing hair slowly emerges. Nova stares in complete disbelief, realizing she is looking at a real mermaid, but the creature tries to flee, prompting Nova to desperately call out for her to wait. This mermaid dives back beneath the surface, disappearing in an instant. In a panic, Nova flails in the water, trying to follow her into the dark depths. Suddenly, the mermaid is there, catching the struggling girl and earning a grateful thank you. Nova then asks if this strange new girl was the one who brought her to the cave. Overjoyed by the confirmation, she declares the mermaid her lifesaver, her face beaming. She eagerly introduces herself as Nova, asking for the mermaid's name in return. This silent girl simply stares back, her expression unreadable and distant. After a long pause, she finally reveals her name is Ro. Ro seems completely bewildered by Nova's bright and energetic personality. While Nova sparkles with excitement, already trying to befriend her quiet rescuer, this mermaid-like girl flinches as Nova curiously touches her tail, clearly unused to contact. Visibly flustered, she pleads for Nova to stop, her face blushing with embarrassment. She quickly pulls away, creating an awkward distance from the confused young girl. This mermaid questions why Nova tried to flee, revealing she was warned to avoid humans. Noting her pointed ears, she then asks Nova what kind of creature she actually is. But Nova admits she does not know, leaving her new acquaintance completely stunned. Nova cheerfully explains that her guardians, Belle and Stolas, probably do not even know she is missing. She describes Belle as a big black wolf and Stolas as a white owl to the curious mermaid. This description seems to jog the mermaid's memory, who thinks she might have seen the wolf. Nova beams with relief, realizing that since the woman vanished after she fell in, she must be alive. With newfound determination, Nova announces she will go search for her and dives into the water. Leaving the mermaid girl completely stunned by her sudden, reckless action, she immediately dives in after her, panicked that the girl cannot breathe underwater. Underwater, she realizes something is strange. She can suddenly speak, something she normally cannot do. Watching Nova sink, she remembers something strange that happened just moments before. Underwater, a mermaid-like girl is shocked that Nova can breathe and use magia here. This mermaid corrects Nova's guess about her age, revealing she is even younger than she looks. Offering her help despite the unfamiliar surroundings, the mermaid surprises a grateful Nova. A strange, dark clover-like mark is briefly visible hidden within the mermaid's hair. Breaking the surface, a stunned Nova clings to her new companion in the murky water. In the middle of the lake, they gaze out at the distant, dying forest on the shore. Her companion explains she saw Belle after hearing a loud noise rushing from deep within the woods. A wave of relief washes over Nova, quickly replaced by fear as she suspects the witch's involvement. Now back on the shore, she realizes with a sinking feeling that her guardians are gone. This strange girl then places a hand on Nova's head, a quiet, reassuring gesture. Calling herself Ro, she tells Nova not to be sad, promising to wait with her here. Nova immediately asks if Ro can guide her through the lake to search for them instead. She explains that Belle will surely scold her for straying, mimicking his stern warnings. Her new friend agrees, suggesting they should explore before they get stuck here. But Nova confidently declares that it is okay, certain Belle will find her soon enough. Her strange new companion watches with a worried expression, a tiny serpent on her head. Nova explains how close she is with her guardians, Belle and Stolas. This revelation seems to make the strange girl feel a pang of sadness, but Nova's spirits are high, excitedly agreeing to go along with her new friend. This girl remains silent, a somber look clouding her features for a moment. As she quietly expresses her envy for the bond Nova shares with her protectors, suddenly she is carrying Nova on her back, diving deep beneath the water's surface, revealing an incredible underwater forest that leaves the young girl completely amazed. As they swim onward, they pass by other mermaid-like inhabitants of the lake, who note that the water in this area is surprisingly clean and unpolluted. This other mermaids whisper amongst themselves, questioning why she has brought a stranger here. Nova overhears them deciding it is best to simply stay away from her guide. She asks if those were her friends, but the girl quietly denies knowing them, instead suggesting they move on to another, better place to explore, leading them into a much darker and deeper part of the underwater realm. Nova asks why this area is so empty, but Ro admits she prefers the solitude. Her new friend explains that she finds the quiet far more calming and peaceful. Looking around the strange underwater landscape, Nova seems to understand her point, when she suddenly spots a cluster of coral, excitedly calling it an underwater forest. Ro seems confused, admitting she has never seen anything with such strange colors before. A curious eel-like creature then asks if Nova actually lives in a real forest, while another asks if her home has flowers, to which Nova happily agrees. Ro explains that very few flowers can grow in the lake's polluted waters, wistfully admitting her dream is to one day be surrounded by them. With a bright smile, Nova tells her that it is easy to achieve in the forest, sparking a longing in Ro to see this world for herself. But Nova remembers her friend cannot leave the water, questioning how it is possible. Ro explains it is not just the lack of water, her guardian warned her it is dangerous outside. This revelation makes Nova realize they are in the same boat, as Belle also forbade her from leaving. She cheerfully recounts how many times she begged Belle, even getting scolded for sneaking out. Ro tells the despondent Nova she is amazing for being able to speak her mind to her guardians, admitting with a sad look that she herself lacks that kind of courage. In response, Nova pops up with a bright idea, offering to go with Ro and speak for her. This suggestion sends Ro into a panic, insisting it is impossible and reckless. But a small, feathered creature appears, eagerly telling Nova to leave it to him, happy she wants to help. With tears in her eyes, Nova declares she wants to help Ro, her very first friend from outside the forest. Her heartfelt words leave the mermaid girl completely stunned and speechless. Swimming ahead, Ro nervously wonders if they are truly friends already, unsure how to react. Suddenly, she stops in her tracks, hearing an unfamiliar voice calling out nearby. A group of dark-haired mermaids appear, demanding to know what Ro is doing in this area. One of them points out the tiny serpent on her head, questioning what it is. Nova innocently asks if these newcomers are Ro's friends, but her guide hesitates. Looking away sadly, Ro admits that they only ever say mean things to her. This revelation leaves Nova looking on with deep concern for her new companion. Meanwhile, the other mermaids gossip that no one would help Ro in this gloomy place if she were attacked. Ro quietly reflects on how she has always been alone, a sad look on her face. Suddenly, two other mermaids appear, openly mocking her name with cruel laughter. As they swim away, Nova calls out to Ro, alarmed by their sudden departure. One of the mermaids turns back, sarcastically asking if she is just going to abandon her new friend. Nova confronts them, remembering a lesson Stolas once taught her about standing up for others, but the girl scoffs, lecturing her about not doing things that other people dislike. With a fierce glare, Nova declares that their cruel actions will come back to haunt them. She then lunges forward, tackling the bully and shouting for her to leave Ro alone. Overwhelmed by the sudden conflict, Ro swims away in distress. Now hidden among the underwater plants, she worries about leaving Nova behind. A powerful feeling surfaces as she realizes she wants to be a friend Nova can rely on. She knows she must return, but the thought of facing those bullies again fills her with fear. Just then, a familiar voice shouts her name, snapping her out of her anxious thoughts. Startled, Ro looks up, recognizing the sound of Nova calling out for her. And there she is, leaping through the water with a joyful cry, reaching out for her friend. Swimming through the water, Nova joyfully calls out to Ro after finding her again. Apologizing for leaving her alone, Nova asks why Ro looks so beaten up. With a furious expression, Nova explains that the other mermaids were picking on Ro. Ro is left completely speechless, covering her mouth in utter shock. In a triumphant fantasy, Nova stands victorious over the other mermaids, who refuse to admit defeat. Her companion looks completely flustered, realizing the skeletal fish is still on her head. Suddenly, Ro swims away in a panic, prompting Nova to call out for her to wait. Nova then turns to the others, insisting they listen and promising to defend Ro from them. Pausing for a moment, Ro realizes that you cannot understand someone without talking first. Now facing the group, Ro hesitates, trying to find the right words to say. One of the dark-haired mermaids explains there are few children, so they wanted to play together. She admits to always seeing Ro alone and wanting to invite her, but the adults forbade it. This girl clarifies she only meant it as a lighthearted joke, which she heard about from Nova. Flustered, she insists that she never actually intended to bully her at all. This revelation catches Ro completely off guard, who can only offer a quiet apology. This other two mermaids quickly follow suit, bowing their heads and apologizing to Ro. With the misunderstanding finally cleared up, one of them suggests a proper introduction. This trio introduces themselves as the sisters Coco, Momo, and Toto. A flustered Ro stammers out her own name, though they already know it. She is left completely tongue-tied, unsure how to act around her former tormentors. Coco then turns her attention to Nova, admitting something about her has been bothering them. In response, Nova proudly announces her name, ready to make new friends. The sisters immediately crowd around her, amazed that a human can survive underwater. Deciding it is more fun to play together, one of them suggests they all go somewhere else. Ro watches quietly from the side, still hesitant after being alone for so long. Seeing her reluctance, Nova gently takes Ro's hand to pull her along. With a bright, reassuring smile, she encourages her friend to join the group. Nova beams with excitement, certain that playing together will be much more fun. Touched by this simple act of friendship, Ro looks at Nova with newfound warmth. She watches Nova swim ahead, realizing just how amazing her very first friend truly is. This dark-haired mermaid looks on, utterly bewildered by the sudden turn of events, when she suddenly shouts a warning, telling Nova to look out behind her. A monstrous crocodile-like beast emerges from the depths, towering over the terrified girl. Unfazed, Nova glares back, defiantly telling the creature it will not be eating any mermaids today. But just as the beast lunges, one of the other mermaids shoves Nova out of harm's way, its massive jaws snapping shut on nothing but water as the girls narrowly escape. This other mermaids shout for them to flee, noting how fast Ro can swim away from danger. Leaving Nova in shock as she is dragged away from the escalating conflict, it is Ro who pulls her to safety, urging her and the others to escape immediately. But then Ro swims directly toward the beast, causing a panicked Nova to call out for her to wait. She realizes this creature is different. Unlike the last one, she cannot communicate with it. This monster's jaws clamp down with a sickening crunch as the others scream Ro's name in terror, leaving the other mermaids completely frozen in disbelief and horror at what just happened. In that instant, Ro looks up in shock, her body now covered in strange, dark markings. This beast remarks that it swallowed her whole, but she barely had any flavor at all. One of the mermaids grabs her companion, shouting that Ro is getting away and must be stopped. Latching onto Ro's hair, the girl is shocked by her unexpected strength, calling out for help. Meanwhile, a small salamander-like creature flees into the darkness, pleading to be returned. Ro furiously demands they give back her friend, her voice filled with desperation. Suddenly, a massive, multi-eyed reptilian beast awakens in the depths, startled by the commotion. This other mermaids watch in terror as the giant creature's form begins to shift strangely. With a violent heave, the dazed beast spits out a strange substance, its eyes crossed out. This strange substance splatters all over a stunned and disoriented Nova. A horrified Ro screams out her name, her face a mask of pure terror. Its companion berates the creature for spitting out something potentially poisonous, told never to do it again. Panicked, Ro lunges forward and grabs Nova, trying to shake her awake. Holding her new companion close, she realizes she has never had anyone to call a friend before. Tears stream down her face, overwhelmed that Nova was the first person to ever get angry for her. Nova slowly comes to, looking at Ro with wide, confused eyes and asking why. With a desperate cry, Ro demands to know why Nova would do something so reckless for her sake. Realizing the danger she caused, Nova offers a quiet, heartfelt apology to Ro. She then holds out a small object, trying to explain something to her tearful friend. In her hands is a single feather she retrieved, believing it was something precious to Ro. Ro stares in disbelief, asking if Nova really fought the others just for this, but Nova just downplays her actions, insisting it was not a big deal at all. Her friend explains that things often get tangled in her long hair and she'd simply given up, leaving Nova to believe her entire effort was completely meaningless. Ro quickly reassures her that it was not meaningless in the slightest. A new thought suddenly striking her as she touches her own hair, surprising Nova. With a gentle smile, she places the items back, declaring them precious treasures now. Nova then asks why she did not just take it off herself, a question that catches Ro off guard. Just then, the other mermaids swim closer, their expressions now open and friendly. They gather around a nervous Ro, who finally seems to be part of their group. A shy but genuinely happy smile spreads across her face at their acceptance, when suddenly, a strange crystalline object forms and shatters in the water nearby. Elsewhere, a shadowy wolf creature shouts at Stolas, demanding he freeze the water faster. Stolas retorts that he was just unconscious, clearly still recovering from a previous ordeal. They are forced to tunnel through the ice like an earth dragon with no other way to proceed. This wolf surges forward, desperate to find Nova as quickly as possible. But Stolas suddenly calls for a halt, hearing a voice echoing directly in his mind. This wolf snarls, realizing their target has finally decided to reveal itself. Before them appears Vepar, the powerful and self-proclaimed guardian of the lake. In another cavern, a swarm of small creatures prepares to attack someone named Crosel. Back with the girls, the mermaid sisters playfully race through the water, carrying Ro along. One of them remarks on their speed but admits Ro was even faster when escaping danger before. Ro feels flustered by this new, strange game, unaccustomed to having fun with others. Her moment of thought is interrupted as she senses a sudden change nearby. A massive mermaid suddenly looms over the group, her size astonishing the small girls. Nova and the others stare up in awe, realizing they are face to face with a guardian. This imposing figure smiles down, confirming she is indeed the one they were sensing. Struggling against the water's resistance, Nova suddenly spots a familiar sight. A massive, multi-headed wolf appears, scolding a smaller creature for complaining about the ride. Overjoyed, Nova calls out to her companions Belle, Stolas, and Kerr as they finally arrive. This great wolf Belle lets out a sigh, relieved to have found her safe and sound. Nova proudly introduces Ro as the one who saved her, shocking the other mermaids. Belle seems to demand thanks from the mermaid children, much to Ro's absolute terror. Suddenly, a powerful new presence emerges, commending Ro on her impressive skills. A flustered Ro can only hide her face, completely overwhelmed by the sudden praise. This horned woman then turns her intense gaze directly upon a curious Nova. Introducing herself as Vepar, she reveals that Belle has already told her all about the girl. Nova learns this imposing woman is none other than the guardian of the lake itself. Vepar immediately begins arguing with Belle, questioning his methods for raising Nova. Meanwhile, the small bird-like creature Stolas dangles precariously from a serpent's grip. Nova then notices her hand, asking what happened to the bandage she had on. She cheerfully recounts being nearly eaten by the beast, brushing it off as no big deal. Ro explains she only got hurt because she was trying to protect Nova from the beast. Suddenly, a massive, dark wolf-like creature appears, alerted by the commotion. This beast, Vepar, tells another to leave, promising to return and speak with them soon. His companion Stolas turns to Nova, pointing out that her bandaged hand is a bad sign. Looking at her finger, Nova dismisses the injury as something minor and insignificant, but she is shocked to see it is almost completely healed after only a few days. Ro remembers with a start that Nova was covered in far worse injuries just moments ago. Both Vepar and Stolas fall silent, observing the strange situation with quiet concern. Frustrated, Stolas grumbles that he still knows so little about Nova's true nature. A new voice insists they cannot let Nova leave without properly treating her wounds. This horned mermaid examines the injuries, offering to teach them about medicinal herbs. Just then, Nova begins choking violently, bubbles erupting from her mouth in panic. Everyone watches in horror as Ro cries out, seeing something is terribly wrong with her friend. Holding her steady, the horned mermaid realizes the situation is far more serious than it appeared. With terror in her eyes, she shouts to Vepar that Nova has stopped breathing entirely. Holding the unconscious Nova, the horned mermaid realizes magia is what allows the girl to breathe underwater. Without warning, she forces a strange fruit into Nova's mouth, demanding that she open wide. With her cheeks puffed out, Nova reluctantly holds the mysterious substance in her mouth. Two shadowy wolf-like beasts suddenly appear, their gazes fixed on the girl and the small creature she holds. A moment later, Nova gasps in shock, suddenly able to breathe freely once more. Her rescuer explains she fed Nova an ahara fruit, a special item that grants 2 hours of underwater breathing. Holding up a doll-sized Nova, the horned mermaid seems amused by her spirit, telling her to be grateful. Turning to a massive beast, she declares that the witch's masterpiece, Nova, will not be allowed to escape. A cunning look crosses her face as she admits to anticipating the witch's arrival, but not this easy victory. Gently petting a large aquatic beast, she explains that the lake has been unusually murky from dawn till dusk. One of the beasts, a strange bird-like creature, wonders what could have happened to the once clear lake. With a grim expression, the horned mermaid declares that she already knows the source of the problem. This cause is revealed to be a river flowing from the mountains, carrying polluted water into their home. Her companion elaborates that the reclusive mountain people are responsible, their advanced industry creating toxic wastewater. Furious, the mermaid reveals her powers can no longer purify the water, and the lake people are falling ill. This guardian Vepar declares that the lake's pollution is the most urgent matter. One of the mermaid sisters tries to get Ro to play, but she seems distracted. But Ro seems deeply troubled, clenching her fists as she looks away. Seeing her friend's distress, one of the mermaids suggests they play later and swims off. A concerned Nova swims closer to ask what is wrong. Ro quietly wonders if the current crisis is somehow her fault. This leaves Nova completely baffled, asking why Ro would ever think that. Meanwhile, the horned mermaid questions Stolas about what it would take to leave the lake for the sea. With a serious expression, she admits this is a possibility she has already considered. Vepar's voice cuts in, declaring the idea impossible and demanding an explanation. She explains their tragic history, how humans drove the mermaids from the sea 2 centuries ago. Nova listens intently as the mermaid describes the sea as a place of brutal survival. Stolas quickly apologizes for the thoughtless idea, but his companion dismisses the need for an apology. This horned mermaid then asks the group if there is anyone else who can use magia to purify the water. With a grim expression, she asks if they understand the terrible fate that awaits a magia user. Belle explains that the protection of the fallen must be passed on to the next generation. Stolas then questions who will receive this power since the previous purification magia is gone. Vepar points directly at Ro, identifying her as the successor in front of everyone, revealing that the young mermaid is also her own daughter. This shocking revelation leaves Belle and Stolas stunned by the unexpected family connection. A surprised Nova realizes this means Ro possesses the ability to use magia, but Vepar clarifies that while Ro has purification powers, she cannot yet control them, making Belle consider the immense burden of cleansing the entire lake alone. Overhearing their conversation, Ro turns away, her posture radiating despair. She blames herself for everyone's suffering because she cannot use her abilities. Nova tries to comfort her, but Ro feels completely unworthy of her new responsibility, spiraling into anguish and wishing she had never even been born. Her mother Vepar reacts with shock and anger at such a devastating statement, while the great wolf Belle watches the painful family conflict unfold. Nova gently approaches her distraught friend, calling out her name with concern. Nova confesses that without Ro, she would have been lost and unable to make any friends. She then fiercely rejects the idea that it is better for someone not to have been born, leaving Ro completely overwhelmed with emotion, crying out her new friend's name. From a distance, Belle remarks on how intensely Nova fights for the sake of others. This great wolf falls into a thoughtful silence, processing this new side of the girl. Vepar then asks Ro if she can use her purification ability, urging her to try now. With a supportive touch, Nova encourages her friend, who seems hesitant to use her power. Nova attempts to help, creating a beautiful orb but admitting it is not nearly enough. But this gives Ro an idea, a sudden spark of confidence flashing in her eyes. Filled with new hope, Nova proposes they work together to purify the entire lake, a suggestion that leaves a stunned Ro completely speechless and in disbelief. This idea of the two of them cleaning the polluted water hangs in the murky depths. Ro immediately dismisses the plan, questioning what Nova is even saying, calling it impossible. Meanwhile, Vepar is told a crucial secret. Nova has the power to amplify others' abilities. A fact Belle confirms, admitting he understands the danger of a child wielding such influence. Ro cries out in frustration, questioning why they have to suffer like this. Belle explains that the next generation must learn to protect their home. His words seem to strike a nerve with Ro, who looks away in distress. Stolas notes how strange it is that Belle is not stopping Nova's actions, admitting that this course of action is indeed a gamble. For he sees no reason to stop Nova from using her power to help others. Despite Nova's encouragement, Ro insists she cannot do what is asked of her, as Nova feels the immense pressure, believing failure would make her life meaningless. Suddenly, Nova grabs Ro's face, startling her out of her spiraling thoughts, forbidding her from ever speaking about her life being meaningless again. She reminds Ro how angry she got when Nova was in danger, vowing to do the same. Stunned by this fierce loyalty, Ro can only offer a quiet apology, clearly overwhelmed by her friend's passionate defense of her life. This mermaid then confesses she discovered her purification powers just before meeting Nova, but her attempt failed and she cannot forget the others' disappointed faces. Ro's inner voice trembles, admitting she is utterly terrified of failing again, but Nova remains resolute, declaring she still wants to purify the lake alongside her friend. Confused, Ro wonders why Nova would go to such lengths for a problem that is not hers. Nova passionately explains she wants to be useful to someone, pleading for Ro's help to do so. Her words hit Ro hard as Nova once again asks for her friend's assistance. Ro reflects on how Nova's small hand has always been the one to save her. Embracing her friend tightly, she admits that Nova's presence has started to change her. Yet the deep-seated fear of failure still holds a powerful grip on her heart. With a gentle smile, Nova vows to become a source of strength for the one who calls her a friend. Inspired by this unwavering faith, Ro finally makes her decision, agreeing to try, her eyes burning with newfound resolve as she declares her own desire to protect their home. A brilliant smile spreads across Nova's face, overjoyed by her friend's courage. From afar, Vepar and Belle observe the two girls, the Guardian offering quiet reassurance. Nova takes Ro's hand in hers, promising that together they can definitely succeed. And with their hands clasped tightly, they prepare to face the impossible challenge as one. With a firm grip, Nova and Ro unite their strength, ready to face the impossible task. Her mother Vepar surges through the water, carrying a large piece of coral with purpose. While Belle and Stolas are left in awe, witnessing the beginning of their incredible attempt. Vepar then gazes up at a massive barrier she has erected to contain the filth. But a look of pure shock crosses her face as she realizes what is happening behind her. All around them, the murky water begins to transform, bubbles rising as light pierces the gloom, and even the mermaid children are captivated, witnessing a miracle they never thought possible. An ecstatic Nova celebrates their victory, leaving a stunned Ro to marvel at the now pristine water. Watching her daughter succeed, Vepar falls into a thoughtful silence beside the great wolf Belle, who gently prods the Guardian, suggesting she should go to Ro at this important moment. With a pained expression, Vepar admits that as a parent she feels she has been outdone. But Belle dismisses her self-doubt, insisting there is no hierarchy when it comes to caring. Suddenly, Ro looks up with a start, alerted by an approaching presence. It is Vepar, her mother, who calls out her name with an unreadable expression, yet Ro cannot meet her gaze, looking down with a pained and conflicted look. Ro is lost in the painful memory of her past failure, her expression full of doubt, but a gentle hand on her shoulder offers a moment of unexpected comfort. Nova's unwavering smile gives her friend the strength to finally speak up. Addressing her mother, Ro admits she cannot use her magia on her own. She desperately pleads to be taught, promising she will do her absolute best. Clasping her hands tightly, she vows to become a daughter Vepar can be proud of, determined not to bring any more shame to her family's name. In response, Nova reaches out to her friend once more with an open hand, prompting Ro to pull the small girl into a tight, emotional embrace. This young mermaid holds her friend close, a silent promise passing between them. Vepar then explains she never pushed Ro because she was too precious to risk hurting, never realizing her overprotective caution was actually cornering her own daughter in despair. With a heavy heart, the Guardian offers a sincere apology for her mistake, before thanking them both, declaring that because of them the lake has now been saved. A statement that leaves a completely stunned Ro calling out to her mother in disbelief. Ro looks up at her mother, quietly asking her to wait for just a moment. Stolas peeks out from Vepar's flowing hair as the mermaid listens intently. With newfound resolve, Ro finally calls out to her mother with tears in her eyes. A warm, proud smile spreads across Vepar's face as she listens, promising that from now on they will protect the lake together as a family. As Nova swims away, she reflects on the wonderful new friend she has made. Belle suddenly realizes the truth. The scent of blood was from Nova getting hurt while fetching the Ahura fruit. Stolas remarks on how reckless and clumsy that plan was for such a short-term gain, but Belle just growls that Stolas is just as clumsy, always getting tangled in things himself. This great wolf then offers Nova a warm drink as a gesture of gratitude. And Nova joyfully exclaims that the lake has finally become beautiful and clear again. Stolas proudly declares her the savior of the lake, much to her delight. Belle admits that having Ro's help made everything go much more smoothly, before turning to Nova and telling her that she did a very good job, leaving the girl stunned by the rare praise as Stolas scolds Belle for being too harsh normally. Nova turns to the great wolf, calling out Belle's name with a question in her eyes. And she quietly wonders aloud if she might have a mother somewhere too. Belle answers matter-of-factly that all children are born from mothers. It is only natural, a simple truth that seems to catch the young girl completely by surprise. She processes this new information, her expression a mix of confusion and understanding. Nearby, Vepar admits that watching Ro with her mother made her feel a little envious, but Nova beams, declaring that since she is Belle, she has never felt lonely at all. A statement that clearly touches the great wolf, who insists he is not lonely either. Stolas then remarks that Nova has endured far more than they could ever imagine, while Vepar gently holds the girl, admitting she was right to be concerned for her. This small owl insists they must eventually tell Nova what they know for her own good, but Belle firmly disagrees, stating the time is not right and the truth would be too cruel. His thoughts drift to a memory of a woman wanting to let Nova live as she wishes for now, all of them simply hoping for a peaceful life together in the newly cleansed lake, a small hope that shines brightly in Nova's joyful smile. Around a warm fire, Vepar and the great wolf Belle watch over Nova, sharing a moment of calm. Nova excitedly shows off her brand new, sparkling clean clothes with a cheerful twirl. Vepar notes she brought a spare, guessing the outfit must be Nova's absolute favorite. But Belle growls in annoyance as her tattered old clothes are carelessly tossed onto his fur. Suddenly, Nova notices her friend Roh staring at her with an intense, unreadable gaze. Roh blushes, feeling a bit shy and embarrassed about the new clothes offered to her. With a wide grin, Nova remarks on how surprisingly direct and pure Roh is for a mermaid. She then asks Stolas to bring Roh clothes next time, a request Vepar quickly agrees to. Though Belle snaps that he never gave permission to bring outside items into his forest, Vepar ignores him, her gaze fixed on the water as she wonders about the true nature of Nova's power. Stolas quickly cuts her off, explaining that Belle is deliberately keeping the details a secret. Meanwhile, Nova gently tells Roh she will not force her to talk about what is troubling her. Their conversation is interrupted as Vepar announces she has a very important request for them all. Pointing toward the distant peaks and asking them to travel to the mountain, she explains that while the lake is clean, the source of the pollution remains a dangerous threat. Vepar tasks Belle with stopping the polluters, a mission she cannot undertake herself, and the wolf finds she had already intended to handle the problem directly. But Belle growls that both he and Stolas are too drained of power to act immediately. Nearby, Nova and Roh decide to rest in the forest before heading to the mountains. Roh promises Nova they will return to see her family again soon, leaving Vepar to bear the heavy burden of the remaining pollution alone for now. As Belle and Stolas depart, the owl asks about the state of the forest and a new threat. A strange, sparkling energy seems to answer, swirling ominously in the air. Belle reports that a golem's power is fading faster than expected, giving it only 2 days. A massive wooden guardian speculates this could be due to an intruder, perhaps a witch. This mention of a witch prompts Belle to turn back and question Vepar about it, describing a specific golden-haired, red-eyed woman and asking if she has been seen. But Vepar claims to have no knowledge of such a person in their territory. Having overheard them, Nova suddenly asks Stolas what a magissa even is. This owl explains it is a legendary magic user who needs no blessing and is likely not human. Nova reflects on the magissa, remembering she was attacked by one of them before. A voice warns to remain vigilant as they might encounter more dangers on their return. This great wolf Belle is called out to, his expression grim and unreadable. Stolas confirms he is listening intently to the unspoken concerns. Suddenly, Nova is snapped back to reality, looking completely startled, as Belle summons her, stating that they need to have a serious talk. Following the great wolf, she nervously asks what is on his mind, and he turns to her demanding to know if she feels anything wrong with her body. Completely confused by the question, Nova insists that she feels perfectly fine, even jumping around to prove her energy, though Belle remains unconvinced. He notes she is not tired, wondering if she can use great power without any backlash. Elsewhere, a horned woman reflects on how lucky it was Nova's power was used on a friendly target. This new information makes Nova realize she must be far more cautious from now on. Belle's gaze darkens as he senses his own strength is reaching its absolute limit. With a sudden lurch, he collapses onto Nova, entrusting everything else to her. Nova cries out Belle's name in shock as he collapses, his last words a desperate plea. Elsewhere, the horned woman sits with a small girl, leaving Stolas utterly confused by the sight. And the small owl's eye widens in sudden, dawning horror at what he is witnessing. Nova looks up, startled by the strange and unsettling embrace she is suddenly in. Belle's form has twisted into a dark, monstrous beast, his fur writhing with shadows. His eye glares menacingly, now surrounded by strange, snake-like tendrils. This dark appendages continue to writhe and multiply across his corrupted form, revealing themselves to be a mass of slithering, shadowy snakes. A sinister voice mocks Nova from the darkness, calling her a persistent nuisance. When suddenly a different pair of eyes flash open with a low, guttural growl, this monstrous form roars to life, a terrifying fusion of wolf and serpent unleashed. Nova recoils in fear as 2 of the shadowy snakes lunge directly toward her. But the beast roars out her name, introducing itself as the monstrous Rose. This horned woman realizes the terrible truth: this creature is not Belle at all. Explaining that when Belle sleeps, his other head, the dangerous Rose, awakens. A voice urgently warns Roh that she must hide right away. As a monstrous beast attacks indiscriminately, sparing only Nova from its rage, it dawns on someone that Belle has not slept, staying awake all night to handle the ice. Feeling a sense of responsibility, Stolas resolves that he must do something. This small owl calls out to the beast, trying to get through to him, but he is suddenly cut off by a violent movement. This creature lashes out, striking Stolas with a furious blow, prompting a horrified Nova to scream out at the rampaging beast. Nearby, across the frozen lake, a new power begins to stir. As a massive owl formed of ice emerges, accepting this was inevitable. This dark beast roars, declaring the ice owl is the perfect opponent for a warm-up, unleashing a powerful blast across the icy terrain. A move that confirms the Ice Guardian's fears that reasoning is impossible. Its icy attack slams directly into the rampaging creature, leaving Nova completely stunned as she calls out Stolas' name in disbelief. This great wolf Belle scoffs, questioning if the other is truly ready for a fight. With wings spread wide, Stolas declares he will not let the wolf do as he pleases, and is immediately ensnared by a powerful, swirling magical force. Belle glares on, his attack holding the owl completely fast. As a sudden explosion rocks the landscape, catching Nova completely off guard. From the ground, a massive crystalline structure erupts with violent energy. followed by a pillar of raw power blasting straight into the sky. A dark, ominous presence emerges from the smoke, wondering what just happened, revealing Belle in a monstrous form, commenting on the unexpected bath. Undeterred, Stolas flies forward, promising to give the beast another one. But Belle swipes with massive claws, vowing to melt everything in his path. His attack unleashes a torrent of destructive energy across the water's surface, sweeping Nova away in the chaos as she cries out in absolute terror. This devastating blast slams into the distant mountainside with overwhelming power, shattering the very landscape in a truly cataclysmic impact. Ro erupts from the water, furious that Nova is with such reckless companions. While a weak cough escapes Nova, the strain of her efforts finally showing. She walks through a desolate landscape of fire and ice, pleading for the bickering to stop, prompting Ro to warn her to be careful as the lake is still a complete mess. Stolas looks on in silence, his expression filled with unspoken worry for them all, but Belle just scoffs at the distant threat, dismissing it as a trivial nuisance. A strange, crystalline object on the ground suddenly catches his attention. Stolas cries out in alarm, realizing what the great wolf is about to do. Belle decides to settle this directly, preparing to unleash his wild power on the crystal. A devastating beam of energy erupts from his mouth, blasting the landscape apart. Yet the wolf growls in frustration, realizing his attack failed to destroy the target. Defeated, Stolas sinks into the water, his energy completely spent. Nova screams out the owl's name as Belle is suddenly ensnared by an unseen force. Dark, snake-like tendrils wrapping tightly around the great wolf, catching him by surprise. Restrained, Belle eyes the distant mountain, planning to obliterate the guardian there in one last move. With a final, desperate roar, Belle unleashes a devastating blast toward the distant mountain. This horned woman Vepar remarks on how recklessly they have been rampaging around, deciding she will have some choice words for Belle once he finally returns to his senses. Meanwhile, Nova clenches her fists in the water, a comforting hand resting on her head, but she suddenly swims away, leaving a concerned Roth to watch her go. Roth quickly calls out, telling her friend to wait for a moment, explaining that Nova forgot something important, leaving the girl completely confused. She holds up a small, round object, revealing it to be the fruit of Era. Vepar gently gives the fruit to Nova, who thanks her, calling her mother. With the fruit in hand, Nova speeds away across the water, impressing Vepar with her speed. A voice reflects on the difficult negotiations they must now have with Vuno, and Vepar worries that this time their efforts might be completely in vain. Far away, a streak of light cuts across the landscape as a voice calls out to Nova, revealing the monstrous Rose, who declares it has been too long since he has been out to play. Nova glares with annoyance, muttering that she hates Rose for what he did to Stolas. This monstrous Rose snaps at Nova, who just puffs out her cheeks in defiance. Misreading her mood, he roars that she should have just said she was hungry. Nova calmly clarifies that is not it, but tells him to wait while she cooks the hunt. Later, by a pile of bones, she asks Rose if Stolas is really going to be okay. Rose scoffs that the owl was clearly weak, claiming he even went easy on him. Still itching for a real fight, he declares he will go destroy the mountain's guardian instead. Nova's worried expression seems to give him pause. Looking at the mountains, Rose suddenly relents, admitting she is a clever one. She then asks why he only comes out at night, and he explains he prefers it. He complains that Belle's instructions are annoying, revealing their internal conflict. Rose reasons that as a multi-headed wolf, he will have to sleep eventually. But Nova insists she wants to spend more time talking with him. Rose, flustered, the beast roars that if she wants to talk, she should just become nocturnal too. She immediately refuses, worried that Belle would get angry with her for it. A shocking truth is revealed: Belle is not the child, but a completely different head entirely. A sudden sound makes Nova's ear twitch in alarm. This monstrous Rose turns his head, questioning the girl's strangely calm demeanor, prompting Nova to cry out in shock, demanding to know why he is speaking to her. From the cliffs above, a new warrior roars, asking who dares interfere with their group. This intruders are revealed to be a troop of armored reptilian soldiers. Looking on in confusion, Nova wonders if these newcomers are dragons or just lizards, while the monstrous wolf snarls at the people of the mountain, demanding to know their business. One of the reptilian soldiers clenches his fist, mockingly repeating the question back at them. His gaze sweeps over the assembled warriors as Nova clings tightly to one of his tendrils, and in an instant the lizardmen surround them, their sharp blades pointed inward. His eyes narrow with a low growl, seeming to ask if they are ready for the heat, leaving Nova's own eyes to widen in sheer terror at the escalating danger. Their leader declares that the questions are theirs to ask, vowing not to let suspicious outsiders roam free. And Rose concedes that they are indeed outsiders, his shadowy tendrils writhing with unspoken power. But before they can react, he unleashes a devastating whirlwind attack on the soldiers. One of the lizard-like attackers stares in shock, realizing its weapon has been taken. Rose, in his monstrous form, holds Nova protectively, snarling at them for daring to threaten a child. Their leader commands his subordinate not to flinch, dismissing the target as a mere child. With a low growl, Rose exhales a plume of dark energy, questioning their foolish confidence. A devastating blast erupts right at their feet, catching the lizardmen completely off guard. Shadowy serpents erupt from the ground, ensnaring the struggling attackers in their coils. This beast's monstrous maw roars that they dared to even think of laying a hand on his Nova, promising they will have no grounds for complaint when he completely annihilates them. Trembling in absolute terror, one of the attackers can only stammer that he is a monster. But their leader shouts at his companion not to be overwhelmed by the sheer pressure. He knows they have no choice but to fight because surrender means certain death. Suddenly, Nova speaks up, desperately pleading with Rose not to kill them. Rose scoffs at her plea, telling her not to be naive about those who drew weapons on them. But Nova insists she has to negotiate, reminding him of her promise to everyone at the lake. He then reveals that Belle entrusted this to him, putting the final decision in her hands. Nova declares she will speak on Belle's behalf, taking control of the tense situation, prompting the monstrous Rose to sigh in frustration at the mere mention of Belle's name. She turns away with a pout, warning that she will start to hate him if he refuses to listen. Reluctantly, the great beast agrees to hear her out, earning a quiet thank you from the girl, leaving the lizard soldiers to watch in disbelief that the monster is actually negotiating. Stepping forward bravely, Nova directly asks their leader if he is Vuno's guardian, and a tense silence hangs in the air as the reptilian warrior considers her question. He clarifies that he is not the guardian, but merely the captain of the local guard. Undeterred, Nova then asks the captain where she might find the true guardian to speak with, but he explains that only a select few can meet the guardian, especially not suspicious outsiders. Her expression falls with disappointment upon hearing that her path is completely blocked. This reptilian captain silently watches her reaction, his own thoughts remaining unreadable, until his subordinate suggests that the village chief might be willing to speak with them instead. Rose immediately growls in protest, refusing to trust them enough to enter their village. This captain agrees to her request but warns the wolf will be watched closely for any sign of betrayal. Rose growls that he should just kill them for their insolence, but Nova firmly tells him no. She tells the soldiers they can capture her if they must, but first they have to listen. This monstrous wolf is completely stunned by her offer, clicking his tongue in frustration. Their leader warns Rose to behave, threatening to roast him if he harms any of his men. He seems perplexed that such a powerful beast would hold back for a mere child. With that, his soldiers begin to bind Nova's hands, wondering who she really is, leading their prisoners to a massive, fortified door set deep into the mountainside. As the gate grinds open, the leader gives them one final warning not to cause a scene, but Nova can only stare in awe at the sight revealed beyond the entrance. Inside is a sprawling settlement built into the rock with industrial smokestacks puffing away, and strange, golem-like creatures seem to be working along the pathways. This lizard folk go about their daily business, trading crystals and other goods, while Rose looks up at the impressive cliffside city, a place of unexpected industry. Nova herself cannot help but marvel at the incredible sight as they are led through the streets, her attention suddenly drawn to the golems, prompting her to ask what they are carrying. Their leader sets the terms, warning them that reckless actions will not be tolerated here. Nova quickly reminds the snarling Rose of the promise he made to her. With a sharp sound, the leader's clawed hand clenches in frustration. Despite the tension, Nova holds her ground, ready to begin the negotiations. This reptilian leader asks if they are the outsiders who have been trespassing in their domain, and introduces himself as Vorax, the representative of their village. His attention turns to Nova, questioning what business a mere child could possibly have with them. Nova explains that the people of the lake are suffering because of polluted water, and when asked if they are from the lake, she clarifies they came from the forest. He questions the connection, prompting Nova to reveal the forest river is also polluted. After a moment of silence, Vorax simply tells them to follow him, catching them off guard. He insists it would be quicker for them to see the source of the problem firsthand, leaving Nova to glance up at the massive wolf, confused by this sudden turn of events. A sudden blast of intense heat makes Nova flinch back in surprise, revealing the source of the problem, a massive, steaming industrial furnace. This lizard man explains this is a facility for smelting and processing metal ore, revealing that his people, the Vuno, make their living as skilled blacksmiths. Their leader states they are following the Guardian's orders, as disobedience means death, a shocking revelation that leaves Nova completely stunned by their dire predicament. He then points to a small, bear-like creature in the distance as an example, explaining it is a proxy for the Guardian, watching them work in shifts around the clock. This leader recounts how 5 years ago their peaceful lives were suddenly interrupted, when invaders declared their village would become a weapons factory for humans, but the Vuno were overwhelmed by their power, forcing a terrible sacrifice from their previous guardian, a kind leader, he recalls, who truly despised all forms of conflict. Since then, their village has been forced into harsh labor, with many perishing from the poor conditions. Despite the hardship, he declares that it is the mission of the survivors to endure. Rose notes that when a species is on the brink, it cannot afford to care for others, and over the years, the Vuno leader says they have somehow managed to adapt. He then asks Nova if she understands, questioning if she will still demand they die for her cause. Vorax dismisses her plea, stating that an outsider child cannot comprehend their people's reasons. Enraged, Rose roars back that the Vuno are the ones causing suffering for everyone else. With that, the captain turns his back, coldly declaring their discussion is over. Rose tells Nova they should just leave this place, seeing no point in staying. Utterly defeated, Nova stands silently as Rose fumes about their annoying captors. She clenches her fists in frustration, wondering if Belle could have succeeded where she failed. Her confidence shatters as she questions if her age is the only reason no one listens. Seeing her despair, a dark intensity flares within Rose's glowing, shadowy eye. But just as they are about to be led away, Vorax suddenly calls for them to wait. He turns back with a sharp look, demanding to know what just happened. Rose snarls back, telling them to stop the pointless chatter and get out of his sight. Vorax considers this, noting that nocturnal beasts are more active at night, a dangerous time for a child. This infuriates Rose, who reminds him the chief already approved their stay under surveillance. This captain calmly reveals their official observer has already arrived, catching them by surprise. A new snake-like figure appears, coolly sizing up Rose as the cocky one. Nova introduces herself and Rose to their new reptilian escort, asking for his name. This snake-like being introduces himself as Repto, confirming he has been assigned to watch them. He leads them into his workshop, noting that the massive Rose is too big for his home. Pointing to a hammock, Repto tells a yawning Nova where to rest but warns her not to touch anything. Rose growls that he is not tired, questioning if Repto is nocturnal like him. With a sharp look, Repto asks to confirm a suspicion. Is Rose the guardian of the forest? This monstrous wolf seems taken aback by the direct and unexpected question. Repto reveals he'd heard rumors of a black wolf guardian, though the villagers were unaware. He then clarifies that being a guardian is not a role he himself holds. Enraged, Rose demands Repto stop mocking him and reveal the mountain guardian's location. This snake man explains the guardian is hidden in a cave, daring Rose to smash his way there. A low scoff escapes the wolf's maw as he accepts the blatant challenge. With a declaration of "fine by me," dark chains begin to materialize around his body. He roars that he will burn everything to the ground and crush them all for their insolence. But Repto calmly tells him to stop, warning that only he gets angry when promises are broken. A new reptilian woman appears, admitting they'd welcome someone punishing their guardian. But she is told they cannot just be killed, as there are things to confirm first. Rose furiously questions why he should listen to the Vuno when they ignored Nova's pleas, threatening that if anything happens to Nova, their entire village is finished. This woman clarifies that this is not a request from them but an outright threat, sighing in frustration as she wonders aloud if all guardians are this selfish. Meanwhile, Nova has completely fallen asleep on the ground, oblivious to the tension. Prompting the warrior to note, she told the girl to rest somewhere else if she was tired. With a resigned sigh, the reptilian woman gently lifts the sleeping child into her arms, placing her in a makeshift hammock while muttering that this is not a daycare. Nearby, a massive boulder completely seals the entrance to a dark cave. From the darkness, the snout of the guardian's proxy emerges with a low growl. Its body is a terrifying mix of fur and cooling magma, a true monster of the mountain.